making a film today.
Hi, did you know you're in Redcar?
No!
I'm 14 years old, that's right. I also work in this school. I do a lot of lessons, but I have to join in all of them. That's right, that's what I'm starting doing, joining all the lessons instead of slacking on the job. If I need special needs, one thing I don't like is being bossed around.
I like this school because I like playing with my two friends, with my friends, and I also like doing my work.
Our favourite game at playtime is tag.
And it keeps us fit and healthy.
What's your favourite part of the school?
That it's fun and we get to do a lot of stuff.
The way I was treated in school, when I went to school, until I went to Kilford, I suffered a very, very dark depression. At the time I had no friends until I went to Kilford. I was desperate to have friends. That's all I wanted, was to have friends. Schools didn't know how to cope with me. They would put a table and chair in the corner of the classroom, never taught me, just because I had a disability. To me that was horrible and disgusting. I went to Kilford until I was 18. I left college now because my course has a funding over age. I'm too old to be on my course, which is ridiculous.
I have dyslexia, and when I started secondary school, my mum started realising there was a problem. So she went in to the secondary school, because I went into a mainstream secondary school. She went into the secondary school, and they just kept like writing her off, like not listening to her. And it took them till I was in year 11, the January, in year 11, to give me a dyslexia test. They gave me when it came back that I had the reading age of a 10-and-a-half-year-old. And that knocked my confidence badly. And my mum went in to ask what support I could have when we got the results, and they turned around and they said, we can't offer her a reader because it's too late. She won't get any extra time because it's too late, because they have to put in for it. And basically that we can offer her 6 weeks worth of extra lessons in English that run for an hour a week. And I was in there with all like the Polish students and everything like that who can't really talk English. So that really brought me back, because we were doing the same level as theirs and they was like really below me. And so that didn't really help me much, and my reading age only came up by a year, like half a year, sorry. So when it came down to doing my GCSEs, I didn't end up going to do them because I felt that low in myself, and I felt like I was going to fail because I felt like there were no support, and I just felt like I was not good enough. And it took me, I had to take 2 years out of doing a college course I really wanted to do, get my maths and my English back up. But now when I apply for colleges, they tell me that the courses I want to do I have to pay for.
I was diagnosed with autism when I was about 8 years old. It was a bit of a struggle at first because my mum was always wondering what was causing me, because I was in mainstream school. I struggled with lots of things and my teachers didn't understand me, and they used to try and get me to do certain things. And then when I finally got diagnosed with autism, they then decided after secondary school, when I was in primary, I was in mainstream there, and then I went to try a different sort of school. I tried to try mainstream, which was like Rye Hills, but I didn't get on there. And then they moved me to Kilton Foot School, which is a special needs school, and I benefited a lot there. as such. So it was a struggle at first, but I got my confidence through them, and I went to college. They sent me to college to do my qualifications in catering, but then I found out I didn't like catering, so then they sent me to do childcare. I'd enjoyed doing my childcare, and it inspired me to go and do youth work with people with disabilities, so that I could give something back to the community and let them learn my experience, and hopefully it'll grow on them to be like me and know they can achieve, even if they have special needs and autism, they can achieve what they want to do in life.
The school became an academy, and they basically just stopped having the small learning community, which was a catastrophe for Paul. The statement that he had, which had been redone, said that he was basically competent for to do maths and English outside of a special learning environment, and the school got that wrong. There was an administrative error, and so he did every other lesson outside of with any support, and then he had some support in maths and English. He was basically let loose into the he was put into the general school without any support during lunch times, during break times, and it took all of 2 weeks for the bullies to make his life absolute hell, to the point that a kid that was really happy to go to school then was dreading going to school every day. And I had a word with the second school down the road and found that there would be a place available for him. And this is still under local authority control. I spoke with Mrs. Biggs, who was the SEN coordinator for them, and it seemed to me that that particular school would be far, far more suitable for Paul, and that it would give him the support that he would need. So basically at that point then I contacted the council and I withdrew Paul from the school he was at. I said I'm not taking him to that school any longer. I talked to Integrated Transport and said literally I just need him to stay in the car till he gets round to the next school. And Integrated Transport then said we can't do that. Cannot authorise that because it's an extra 2 miles further from your house, which I was not particularly happy about. It took us just over a month, and then Integrated Transport were able to relent finally. Lots of phone calls, lots of emails, lots of struggling to find a solution, and the solution was that he got picked up by exactly the same car and driven, stayed in the car and went to the other school.
This school, Kilnthorpe Specialist Academy, is an amazing place. It has, for me, it has the finest head teacher in the area for children with special needs. All of the teaching staff, to my mind, walk on water. They're that good. Every one of them, I mean every one of them, I can't pick out any individual names and I won't, but every single one of them care about the children and their upbringing and their well-being and how they're looked after.
As far as I'm aware what the local offer is, it's about services that need to be improved and looked at again, so then they help other young people and with people with disabilities as well for services like, because some certain services they haven't heard of and that needs to be more recognised, and that's what I think the local offer is.
Well, I've never heard of the local offer before, and I reckon that it should be publicised a lot more because not many people have heard of it by the sounds of it from the discussion we've had before of anything like this. And I think a lot of youths out there, especially ones with a disability, should be a bit more well known. Maybe if it was around school or something on borders. Do you have an input?
I agree.
I've heard
about, like I've heard of it, but I don't know about it.
I haven't heard nothing about that till now.
I think like obviously the schools will know and like youth workers and that, but it's alright them knowing, but who really needs to know is parents and
The kids.
like the kids or people with
disabilities.
people who this affects, really.
Local offer? No, I'm sorry, I've never heard of it.
Me neither, I've never heard of it, no.
What is it?
I've heard of the local offer. My understanding of it is limited, and I might be incorrect when I say, but what my understanding of it is around health, social care, education coming together and providing a more coordinated service. The bit I don't understand is how it's going to be delivered without changing the services. I don't think it's enough for those organisations to get together and discuss it, and then I think they will then just fight over who doesn't want to pay for the bits and pieces. There needs to be a pooled budget, and I'm hoping that's what the local offer is.
I want to work at the Middlesbrough football stadium.
I want to be a fossil hunter. I want to own my own business.
I want to be a truck driver.
I want to work in the police.
I want to work on public transport. I own my own airport.
I want to work at the football stadium.
I want to be an engineer or a scientist.
I want to do animation.
Where do we see him in the future? At the moment, we've got a 13-year-old son with the age of about 7, 8, about 7 years, 8 years of age. What does a 7 or 8-year-old child want to do when they grow up? When you ask them that question. One day he wants to be a parking warden. Next day he wants to be an airline pilot.
Or a policeman,
Or a policeman.
It's harder for us to gain jobs because not a lot of people are hiring, and the ones that are hiring only want the intelligence or the intelligence. They don't want the disability children, the most challenging children, to work for them.
Just because you've got special needs doesn't mean you won't exceed in life.
You won't be.
Because I find like people with special needs, they don't judge it, they don't do anything, they work hard, they know where they want to go and they work hard to get where they want to be. And people need to understand that we have like the same ambitions as everyone else.
We have the same
in
dreams.
life, we yeah.
I've got a employment worker who supports me at my work to make sure I'm alright, and that who comes and checks on me once a month just to make sure I'm doing alright. It's just right, and it's quite good support what I get as well.
You've got to remember that, you know, when a parent first gets to know officially that their child is disabled or has a problem and they're going to need some extra support and stuff like that, the shock to the system is quite strong, because everybody picks their baby up and they look at this little perfect being that they've got in their arms, and they can't possibly imagine that that child would ever have these extra problems. And when you get told that, you feel gutted. I felt absolutely, with Paul, I was absolutely gutted when I first found out that. And I couldn't think straight for the first couple of months. I'm going to be honest, it's one of those things, it's like a bereavement, because all of your hopes and fears, all your future hopes for that child have to be adjusted massively. And And a lot of self-evaluation goes on at that particular point. So at that point, somebody coming along and bombarding you with information is not what you want. You just want to go away and hide for a couple of weeks, maybe have a bit of a cry.
The dynamics of the family are fairly well structured. We keep to a routine as much as we possibly can.
Preparation as well is the
Yes.
key.
I've got 2 children. The eldest one, who's disabled, she's 11, nearly 12. When she was about 2 years old, I put a complaint in about the health visitor because I didn't feel like I was being listened to. We got referred to another health visitor who'd helped us in the past with sleep patterns and things, and she referred us to a paediatrician. He thought that she was autistic. There was no sort of mention about learning difficulties or anything like that at that point. She was also referred to a speech and language therapist who didn't think she was autistic. So we were in a bit of limbo. The speech therapist also asked us about blood tests and has she had any, and I said no. So we got referred for some genetic testing. She was also referred to an autistic specialist as well, who saw her on and off for the next 2 or 3 years and said no, she's not autistic, no, she's not autistic. We then got to the point where she was about 4 and I was heavily pregnant with my youngest daughter, and he said yes, she is autistic. We sort of knew by that point that there were some learning difficulties. We'd had problems to do with schooling. We turned up at the ordinary mainstream school, and the teacher there, when I said she's got some speech difficulties and she's still in nappies, basically threw up her arms and said, well, she can't come here then. Which obviously really, really upset me, because it was the first time we'd really been outside of the family and I suppose looked for some support.
I was lucky. I was very lucky. I had a lot of support when Mika was a baby. We have a brilliant social worker. I know they get bad press, but I don't know why. And she's still with us now. As I say, Mika will move into adult services, so that will change within the next year or 2. But, you know, as a younger child, we got lots of support from different people.
It's been a matter of finding your own path, your own way through all the different systems, which are very complicated. The health system, social care system, the education system, they're all very different. They're set up very differently. The way you access them is differently, and knowledge of the various services that you can get access to has been very difficult to find out about.
The portage service that we access is currently based in Mask, which is fairly easy to get to from here, and it's always been, when it has had to move, accessible because it's never been sort of too far away from home. The other group that I go to specifically for the children with Down syndrome is in Newton Aycliffe, and that takes me about an hour to get there and an hour back. And usually sort of that's okay to do sort of in the summer months, but when we get to the winter and the weather's bad, I find myself sitting in a lot of traffic, and so by the time I get there, if I do get there, I only have a shorter time there because obviously I haven't been able to get there till later because of the distance I have to travel.
You know, it feels like, I mean, I am Charlotte's key worker, and it feels like I've got to be on people's backs all of the time, otherwise things don't happen.
I do understand why the government are curbing the school term time holidays. But when you've got a child with special needs, it's actually easier all around if there's not the huge amounts of people. And I remember on one holiday discussing this with another lady whose daughter had special needs, when another person sat close by interrupted and said she didn't see why our children should be treated any differently, i.e. being allowed to bring them out in term time. And I just said to her, but my daughter is treated differently every day of her life, and not necessarily in a nice way. And I started telling her a few little things that had happened over the years, and she sort of was like, oh, well, I'd never thought of it like that. And that's the problem, people don't think of it.
I don't get the direct payments directed to myself. Somebody else deals with it, because I couldn't have done it anyway. It's too much complicated for me. But I just think you should be able to have a lot more choices on who you have and who you want. You know, but direct payments, it's a good thing to be having, because at least she's not in like residential homes and places like that, you know.
This is where I get a bit awkward. The direct payments didn't actually work for me, and I ended up with a bill from the taxman because of apparently my returns had been returned late. They were done by a company. I did it as an indirect payment, and I was basically told that because it was an official letter, it's done, I had to pay it. Eventually I didn't, I fought, but I have refused to handle the money now.
But we don't get direct payments for Alice. The only thing that we do get for her is the disability living allowance.
I think sometimes people look at it and they think, oh, it's a bit of a jolly. This is, this isn't a necessary thing. And then imagine if you've got somebody who will have the tantrums and the emotional abilities of a 3-year-old, and the awareness, the danger awareness of a 3-year-old for their life. And then I've got 2 of them. I can't switch off, and they don't go to sleep. They don't do what normal kids will go to sleep at 8 o'clock in the evening or whatever. They don't. They do not sleep. So I've got them awake until 11 or 12 at night. And then they're up again first light, thumping around the house. Yes, it's a luxury, but eventually everything wears you down, and you need a bit of time.
I get 2 nights a month at the moment. Whether that'll change since Mika's dad left, I don't know, but it's again, that's difficult because the places are not there anymore. The unit she used to go to is no more, and she actually goes to a lady now as opposed to a group.
Unfortunately, the social services decided that they would close St Margaret's, and they moved all of the services and the staff to Show Start buildings. Now Show Start is set up predominantly for preschoolers, so all of the equipment and the play areas are for preschool size children. The service that moved from St Margaret's Way is supposed to go up until you're 18. So my concern is that Charlotte, at the age of nearly 12, is going to outgrow that service, and there's nothing else in its place.
We did that animation thing last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you feel about when you did that? Did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you did it as well, we also put something about your carer, didn't we? Because you were wanting a carer, but you didn't know what carer you were going to get. So you've got a carer now, haven't you? Is that correct?
When we're near you, we just have to meet him first.
You have to meet him first. So you're in the process of getting one.
Yeah.
Right. And what's his name?
I think he's called Pete.
Pete.
Yeah.
Cool. Is he funny?
I don't really know because I haven't met him yet.
She's a great kid, very outgoing, naughty, cheeky, typical teenage girl. I do have one or two concerns about when she gets older. She's due to leave Children's Services next year, and I'm quite concerned about what will happen when she changes over to Adult Services, because there seems to be a lot of the units and places like that that are actually closing down. So I'm very concerned, to be quite honest.
I try not to think about the future because it terrifies me. I'm not confident in the services. At the moment, we've got a very nice paediatrician who's very supportive. I can phone him up. I really don't think I'm going to get something like that in Adult Services. I don't know where she's going to live because she's going to need support. I don't know how we're going to cope day to day. We've got to work. It scares me. It scares me even more, the thought of it when I'm not here.
I think all I would say is, I know it sounds silly, listen to people more. You know, understand that the way they're seeing things isn't always the way we see it. I know the children are our responsibilities, and we do get help. Sometimes it just isn't enough.
Make yourselves available. Instead of being transparent, stand up, let us see you, let us count you, and let us talk to you and find out what you can do to help us as a family.
If there was one point of contact that there was somebody that can help me through the minefield, which is all the different bits of paperwork from all the different departments and how these things work, where you've got a particular person or group of people can just say, right, okay, I hear what you're saying, I understand what your problem is, these are your options, and I'll help you to do this, you know.
I just wanted to bring awareness that all disabilities are different, and even the autistic spectrum, it's a big spectrum, it's not all the same. And sometimes you should give people a chance because we're all human, we all have the same goals. Like one day I want to have a family and I have a girlfriend and all these little things. Some people don't think people with disabilities get this, but they do, surprisingly. And that's why we're just like anyone else.